What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Welcome to another edition of Love Talks with the Garcons. And we have another hot one for you. And it kind of saddened me to be saying that we have this, we have that, because as you could see from the names on the bottom of the stream, it only says my name tonight. So I'm actually solo tonight. So it's weird to say we, but it's only me. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that later on. But as you're coming in, please go ahead and share the live with at least 5 people. Let them know that we are on tonight and we have another great hot topic for you all. And tonight we are going to be talking about what men wished women knew. We're going to do a little deep dive about it on tonight. But as you're coming in, go ahead and write in the chat if you, in the chat. Go ahead and write in the chat if you can hear me. Okay. I did transition to a different mic tonight. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Just write in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay. I won't be on too long because obviously I'm by myself. But before I even get started, I want you all to go ahead and share the live. But also comment in the chat and let me know if you can hear me. Okay. What's going on Instagram? Thank you guys for being here tonight. Facebook, YouTube, welcome to another live. I'm going to give you guys about 10 seconds. Actually, no, I'm be gracious. I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds to share the live real quick and let others know that to just come on because this topic is definitely going to be a good one that will benefit them for sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Please comment and let me know if you can hear me okay. Hey, Slendy on IG. Slendy09, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please share the live. And I'm going to assume that the thumbs up you're giving me, you're telling me that you can hear me okay, right? Thank you, Slendy. Thank you for joining. Go ahead and share the live, share the live, share the live. If you can hear me okay. I also need to know if I'm coming across clearly. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, thank you. Wait, what's up, man? What's up, Gary? My barber in the building. As you can see, I need a cut, man. I need to clean up. I'm gonna see you this weekend. Uh, that's my barber, Gary, in the live. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're gonna go ahead and get started in about 10 more seconds. That's the longest 20 seconds in the world, right? We're gonna get started in 10 more seconds. What's going on, Minister Jin Julian? What's good? What's good with you? Thank you for joining us tonight. Uh, yes, yes. All right. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. Let's get this thing popping. As you guys can see tonight, I am by my lonesome. Anne could not join us. She had another engagement to go to, which she could not even go to that engagement because she is right now in bed and she's sick. So send some love to Anne because she's not feeling well at all. So I'm over here on my lonesome, but I think she's actually watching the stream. So we can send her some love and she can hear it from there too. All right. But just because Anne is not here, I want to make sure that you guys are here. Today going to be a little bit more lecture style because I don't have anybody here to talk to me. But I would love to hear from you guys in the comment so we can make this thing happen. So tonight, I am going to talk to you guys about what men wished women knew. There's going to be a deep dive into the male mind. What men wished women knew. So guys, if you are in the chat right now, as a man, if you are in a relationship, if you are single, we could comment right now. What do you wish your woman knew about you, how you think, how you process? Because in a relationship, a lot of time, a lot of the issues that people have in a relationship is this inability to really understand each other. And that lack of understanding come from not being of the same mind, right? And it's just come with the territory that we don't think alike. Men and women, we do not think alike, right? So ladies in the chat, let me know, have you ever wondered what your men or men period, whether you are married to that person, whether you are dating, whether it's a situationship. Last week we were talking about the dating pool, how pissy it is, and all that good stuff. But I want to ask the ladies, what have you ever wondered what men are really thinking about in a relationship? And fellas, I'm also wondering, I'm also wondering, do you have the same thing? Like, does she really understand my mindset and the things that I think about and the things that I talk about and the way I process things, right? Because oftentimes that's a barrier in relationship, and it is very imperative that we do understand that, right? We do not think alike. We do not think alike. We are so opposite in the way that we process things, the way we think about things, that if we are not cognizant of some of those things, it could be a real detriment to any relationship. Okay. And because we think differently, that means we also communicate things differently. We process emotions differently. And so it is imperative that we finding the right way to navigate relationship and the way that we think. All right. And that is what I am here to talk about tonight. And I don't want to be too much of a lecture style. It's the first time I'm doing this, to be honest with you. I'm really kind of nervous. I have my comfort when my wife is right next to me when we do the stream. But since she's not here, I need you guys to talk back to me. And I apologize if I'm a little bit more lecturish tonight than I am typically on our regular stream. All right. But thank you for rocking with me. Thank you for being here. And let's get this started. So I have a story for you guys. Story time. What every man wishes women knew. So here's a story. I'm gonna make this up. I actually wrote a little notes about it, so it's not too crazy. I love my girlfriend. She's smart, she's beautiful, and she has the uncanny ability to remember something I said in 2017 and use it against me with perfect timing. But if I could wish for one thing, just one thing, it will be this: men are simple, painfully, ridiculously simple. And yet women seem to believe we have the mental complexity of a 13-part Netflix drama with multiple timelines. Let me explain. Last Saturday, not my girlfriend, this is a story that I found. Lisa and I were sitting on the couch watching TV. She suddenly turned to me with that look, the look, the one that says, "I have a question, and your answer determines your future happiness." I've been a victim of that, where we're just sitting around doing nothing, and out of nowhere, randomly, my wife decided she want to have a conversation or she has a question, and I'm already thinking about something else completely different. But here we are. She took a deep breath and asked, "What are you thinking about?" She took a deep breath and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Now, ladies, here's the thing. When you ask this question, you imagine we have deep thoughts. You think we are contemplating our love for you, planning our future, or reflecting on life's mysteries. Let me tell you what actually is happening, what was happening in my brain at that moment. This is a story. This is not me personally. In the story, this is what the character was thinking about, the man was thinking about in the story. Could I fight a bear if it came at me with a running start? Why don't we ever see baby pigeons? When do they grow up? If I had to live in one video game world, which one would it be? So those were the thoughts that the character was thinking about when out of nowhere, his girlfriend, Lisa, is asking him, "What are you thinking about?" Back to the story. But I couldn't say that. Experience has taught me that saying I was thinking about whether I could outrun a kangaroo does not lead to a beautiful evening. So I panicked. Uh, just thinking about us. Mistake. Lisa's eyes narrowed. Like, what about us? This is my wife in a nutshell. What about us? Now I was in deep. There was no escape. I had to commit. just how happy I am? She squinted, studying me like a detective, interrogating a suspect. Really? Because you looked confused 5 seconds ago. I was drowning, sinking fast. My brain fired off an emergency message to itself. Abort mission! Abort mission! Change the subject. Hey, what do you want for dinner? I asked, a fool's last attempt at salvation. And just like that, she hit me with the ultimate reversal. I don't know. What do you want? And thus the cycle continued. What is the moral of the story? Ladies, we're not hiding some deep, mysterious world inside our heads. We are at any given moment thinking about food, sports, or an imaginary battle between a shark and a crocodile. If we say nothing, we really mean nothing. And for the love of all good things, just pick a restaurant. All right. So I chose that story just to go to show you something as simple as me sitting around thinking about nothing. You think there is actually something I am thinking about. So as a woman, we do need you to know that sometimes we are really thinking about nothing. Anne would call me sometime, or when I come home, the conversation she want to have with me, she was like, "Did you think about me today? Do you even think about me?" And she has some kind of validation list as to what constitute of me thinking about her. Yeah, because sometimes if I'm thinking about, okay, how we're gonna pay this bill, that's thinking about you. If I'm thinking about how we are going to plan out this empire we're trying to build, that's thinking about you. But my wife has a way of thinking. This is how what constitute you thinking about me. But in actuality, that's not how the man's mind is wired, right? Uh, the male's mind is wired this way. First of all, we have the one box at a time system, right? One box at a time system. If you imagine a man's brain as if it was a warehouse full of boxes, we have different boxes in our mind, right? And so we it's very important. Before I'm gonna let you guys know what some of these boxes mean, but my boy Gary said I am always thinking about about motorcycles, projects, cars, and a new bill one of my kids are going to tell me I have to pay. Yeah, listen, majority of the time men are thinking about how we can be providers, and you're absolutely right. Right, Gary, you're absolutely right. Sometimes that is the only thing that is preoccupying our minds. So when we are sitting here with you, we are not going into every single box. We are not going to every single box. We are compartmentalizing things. In our brain, there is a work box, there's a sports box, there's a food box, there's a relationship box, and yes, guess what, ladies? There is a nothing box. There is a nothing box. Sometimes we are sitting here and we are literally thinking about nothing. I work with women all my life, and oftentimes they are in their deep conversation. Like as an educator, my office is always packed with women. I have female coworkers, and they are going in about their different conversations about this, that, and the third. And me in my mind, I can't even hear what they're saying because like, okay, Irvins, what do you think? I'm like, what? I was in my nothing box, right? So, for example, when we are in our different boxes, a woman might say, let's talk about your day. But me as a man, I might be on something. Hold on. I need to close the watching basketball box before I open talking about my feelings box. We need you guys to know that. Ladies, we need you guys to know we are compartmentalize things in our mind. We are not thinking about every single thing at every single time. So if you try to talk to us while one box is open, and the box is on sports, it's on bills, it's on something else, don't expect the proper response because that let's talk about your feelings box is not yet open. Okay? So it's A men might look like they are not good in multitasking when it comes to conversation, but don't blame it on just us not trying to be present in the moment. It's just that we are generally struggling to jump between topics as you women always do. That's why it's always important for you to find the right time to talk about certain issues with a man. You have to find time to make sure that that box is open. If you want his full attention, you have to give him time to switch between what he was thinking about to now come and talk about what it is that you want to talk about, right? So that's one thing that we wish women knew about us, that we are compartmentalizing the different boxes that we have. Okay. Um, we also have the nothing box, as I mentioned before. And we just go to a mental space where we think about absolutely nothing. You know how when a woman is sitting there and you could tell something is wrong with her and you say, "What's wrong?" And they say nothing, but you know they're lying. For a man, we can actually be sitting there thinking and it look like we are perplexed, we are in deep thoughts, but we are literally thinking about nothing. But for some people, they're like, "Oh, you're not trying to open to me. You're not trying to tell me anything. You're trying to hide something from me. You don't want to share your feelings." No, we are literally thinking about nothing. And you need to be able to accept that, right? And in our nothing box, it's like we are in the space where it's an empty room. It's just a recliner, a remote, and it's all figuratively speaking, of course, but we are literally thinking about nothing. So when you say, "Hey, you've been quiet, what's in your mind?" We have nothing in our mind. It's just our nothing box that is activated. So don't feel offended that we are not talking about something that you might want to talk about. All right. So that's another way how our mind works. So it's very imperative that you are understanding and that you extend grace for that. And it has nothing to do with you, but it has everything to do where we are in our mindset, in our compartmentalized mind, and we are just probably thinking about nothing. Um, another way our mind work, and another way our mind is wired, we go into the problem solving instinct, right? And that problem solving instinct, we hear problem, and our first instinct is to try to find a solution. We are not thinking about emotions. We just want to process things and find a way to make it happen. So a woman might say, my boss is so annoying. A man might not be able to say, "Oh man, what's wrong? What's happening? How do you feel about it?" The men might just say, "You should just quit." My boss is so annoying. And our response is, "You should just quit." Right? And the reason why we should just quit is because our first instinct is to find a solution. And in that moment, that solution could to be to tell you to just quit the job. Let's move on. And you might say, well, okay, then I don't want to quit. I just want to vent. And don't be surprised if the men's rebuttal at that time is, "So why did you bring it up? If you don't want to quit, which is a solution, why did you bring up that you hate your job?" Right? And so that's part of that too. And it's very important that you understand how the men's brain work, right? And so it's just some ideas as we dive deeper into this conversation. And so it's very important, but it's not just enough to just be stuck in that area. We need to understand, though, as men, that we should listen more and fix less. But women, you definitely want to make sure you're saying what you mean and don't give as much hint. Be more direct into what it is that you want to get to us, and we'll be more direct in giving you an answer. That would be a helpful thing in relationships, and that's things that we want. We that every man wish a woman knew about us. Okay, um, so there's differences between our minds, as you can see, the way we process things. And I'm being a little bit more philosophical and scientific tonight. And then when my baby's back with me next week, we can do the women and men's perspective in the conversation. All right. So there are some key differences in the male and the female mind. Men are more solution oriented, whereas women are more emotion oriented, right? So men would tend to focus on solving the problem rather just expressing emotions. And if a woman shares a frustration, a man's instinct is often to fix it rather than to just listen. Okay, so it's very important that you guys know that about us. Some not and this does apply, of course. It's not universal for every single person, but nonetheless, these are something for us to be mindful about. Men are more solution oriented, whereas women are more emotion oriented. Right? Women often like to share, to be heard, to be understood, and not necessarily for solutions, but just to have that space to be able to express all those things. And so, oftentimes, when a man is just trying to give you a solution, you might feel like, okay, you're not being heard, or that you're not being appreciated for the way you are expressing your feelings. All right. So keep that in mind. Another way we are different, uh, we process emotions internally. Men process emotions internally, whereas women process them externally. So men are often taught socially and biologically to process emotion internally before expressing them. This can make them seem emotionally distant or withdrawn. So it's not intentional, ladies. It's just how we are wired. Men thrive. I'm sorry. Whereas women, on the other end, they often want to process emotion by talking through them, which can lead to frustration if a man shuts down and doesn't immediately open up. So that shutdown is nothing to do with you, but it has everything to do with the men. Another way that we are different: men need respect to feel love, whereas women need emotional connection. So our way of feeling love, a lot of it has to do with respect, and that could look different in different situations, in different relations, in different circumstances. But men definitely thrive on respect and appreciation, and when we feel disrespected in their role as a provider, as a protector, as a leader, as a friend, as any of these things, it is very, very likely that a man can shut down emotionally, whereas the woman often need that deep emotional connection, affirmation, uh, and that can, if they don't get it, that could be translated into all different type of things, such as you neglected me emotionally, you don't appreciate me. But it's just the fact that we process things differently, and we need respect to feel appreciated versus needing some kind of emotional connection. Okay. So and hi boo, she's on in the comment, but that's not the case for all men, is it? Or are the ones who aren't like that intentionally adjusting for their women? It's a little bit more. Say a little bit more about that. But one thing I want to say to the second part of Ann's question: just because I am here tonight giving you guys what will be considered facts about how men and women are, it doesn't mean that we have to stay stagnant. It also means that we can always try to grow and be better for our person. This is both for men and women, right? But it's also important for us to know what the status quo is. As we are growing, as we are becoming better people, as we are evolving, nonetheless, what is the status quo? We need to have an understanding of what the status quo is in order for us to not feel frustrated when it's not there. I always use this term when I talk about some of these things about how men and women are. We are a certain way, but there's always a trajectory for change, for growth, for evolving, right? We should always try to meet that trajectory because we are joining yourself with somebody else in relationship, in commitment, in partnership, in all type of ships, in a covenant if it's marriage. So it's very important that we know how this person is, we know how they operate, we know how they are wired. You know yourself how you are, but nonetheless, never stay stagnant. Never stay stagnant. All right. Another way we are different: men value independence, women value connection, right? So we recharge by having space. Men like to recharge by having space, whether it's time alone, engaging in a hobby. In my case, just going to nap. I love napping, and my wife doesn't like it. Whereas women recharge through connection and conversation. So that obviously you can butt head. That can lead to people butting head. So when a man withdraw, it doesn't always mean something is wrong. He just needs some time to process, to unwind, to reduce, whatever other terminology that you want to use to boost back up. That's in a nutshell what it is that we are looking to do. Okay, so very important. So what that does is, when it comes to relationship, if we don't know that these things exist, that these gaps exist, that we are wired differently, that is a cause for a lot of tension and undue burden in relationship. But once we are able to be empathetic about those different things, it makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so tonight we're being very surface. We're being a little bit very surface in the conversation, and we'll have a deeper dive next week when Annie's here. That way, you're able to hear both perspective. All right. Um, there's a communication gap when we don't think the way, when we are not being mindful of the fact that we are think differently. Uh, we want to make sure that men tend to express their relationship or their love more so through actions rather than words. So if we do an act for you, even though that might not be your love language, that's the way that we are expressing love. And we wish that women knew this a little bit more. Men also, we may not express emotion the same way, but we also do crave emotion, believe it or not. So remember how earlier I told you we are not very externally expressive. Nonetheless, it doesn't mean that we don't welcome the idea of emotional safety. That matters to us as well, right? So it's very important that the way you address us, what is considered to be criticism, encouragement, sometimes it's not the same. Sometimes women think um, criticism is the same thing as encouragement. We want you to know that there is absolutely a difference when we are what you feel is encouraging can feel like criticism, and it can lead us to feeling not respected. You see how all of these things are connected, right? So it's very important that you understand we need emotional safety just as you do, even though we might not express it as much as you do. Because we are not wired, once again, here goes that term again. We are not wired to constantly be expressing emotionally what we need, even though internally we need some emotions from you guys, if that makes sense. All right. We also want to feel desired too. I don't want to always be the one pursuing my wife when it comes down time to be intimate. For those who are married, I love it when my wife engages in that particular area in our marriage and our relationship. We want to be desired just like you all want to be desired. Okay. Like for example, we want to be complimented. It does do something for us. It does do something for us, ladies. So don't just think, okay, it's always you that need to be complimented, but it does something to the men's ego, and I say ego in the most positive way. When their women's feeling, make them feel like they're really the men, that they desire them just as much as you want it. We want it too. We might not just be as expressive about it, again, because we are not wired to be externally expressive as you guys are. Right. And once again, respect is the key. Respect is the key. You cannot say that enough. Most men equate love with respect. You love me by the way you respect me. It doesn't mean that you allow me to do whatever I want. And I think that's a misconstrued definition of respect, where you walk all over the person and you do whatever you want. You have to give no account. That is not what we're talking about. But when we're talking about respect, it has to do with um, how you value us, how you look at us, how you talk to us in front of people, right? Um, and Yes, this comment is really good. Men should feel comfortable having these conversations with their partners. But at the same time, Leach, and I'm not sure who that is. That Natalie? I think that might be Natalie. Hey, Nat, if that's you. But the thing about that is we have to create the space for the men to feel comfortable to be able to do that, right? That space needs to be there so for them to feel comfortable to be able to be able to do that, Nat. Because as I mentioned before, this is all it's all connected. It is all connected. We are not wired to do it, but do you create that space for a man to be able to do that? Because by even with that comment, it also goes into another topic where you have to be vulnerable as a man, and that is not something society tell us to do, right? So we internalize a lot of these things that we want, a lot of these things that we need, and then it creates tension in the relationship. It creates a lot of unnecessary strife in the relationship because we are not going to be we are not going to say it if that space isn't there to say it. I find that even now in our marriage, I find myself being more vulnerable in terms of expressing emotions and feelings and my needs to end later on now as we got older and we had to build to that space, right? And so I agree with you, Natalie, that men should feel comfortable having these conversations, but we are not wired to be able to do that externally. Once again, it's not to say you remain stagnant or not try to be better as a man to do that, but nonetheless, it's just a reality of where we are right now as men, right? Um, Gary answered that Gary said we wouldn't understand. It's a very interesting point. I think it's a generalized is too generalized to say that a woman wouldn't understand some of the things that we express. But again, a big part of it is what kind of space is created in that relationship. The kind of safe space. I know these are new buzzwords that happen more so in this generation with this population and this day and age, but those words really means a lot. Safe space mean a lot. If I don't feel space to be a man to express myself the way a man typically does, then I'm not going to express anything. Same thing for a woman. If the woman is we know that their stuff, their emotion, they need to express their emotion and need to be more external. As a man, I need to create that space as well, right? Again, it's not about stagnancy. A relationship continually have to be built, continually have to grow, continually have to evolve. But it's still important for us to know what the status quo is and what the reality is for some of those things. All right. So really quickly to wrap up, again, I'm by myself tonight, so it's very weird to be by yourself. And I do appreciate you guys who are commenting on the stream. So I want to be brief. We did not want to leave you guys without not being on the stream tonight. So that's why it's a abbreviated version that we want to give tonight, and then next week we're gonna unpack some of these things more. Right. So how should women deal with men who think differently than they do? Well, the first thing I would say to the ladies, be direct, right? Men, we are not great in deciphering hints or emotional clues. So if something is wrong, it's very important that you tell us straight up. We don't want to have to play detective. This happened to me with me in a while back, where she was upset about something, and in me playing detective, trying to think about what was wrong, I was completely off, not realizing she had an issue with me, and I'm thinking it was an issue that had to do with her students or something that was work related, right? So please be direct instead of saying nothing is wrong, and we have to process and try to think if something is really wrong, or in some cases, the men go about to finish watching the game because you told them nothing is wrong. When something is clear, just say it. I feel frustrated because I don't know. I wanted you to check in on me in my meeting or something. Whatever it is that you want us to know, share it. Be direct. All right. I'm trying to go back to what Gary said that you guys are talking about, and then Natalie. Let me go back up. Oh, this is a comment, right? Because we don't feel safe sharing because the woman just can't or won't understand. All right. I think that's what Ann and Natalie are talking about. All right. Another thing that we should do, how should women deal with the men who think differently? Give us time to process. Give us time to process. Uh, Women tend to process emotions out loud. They talk through their feelings as they figure them out. Whereas men, we tend to process emotions internally. So we need that space and time to think before we respond. So if we seem distant to you guys, it's not because we want to be distant. We are just sorting things in our minds, in our head. So we do need that little space to be able to do that. So give us a little space before demanding a deep conversation. You hear that, Ann? Give me space to think before we we dive we dive deep into a conversation. All right. My wife like to say, "Well, don't let we don't want to go to sleep angry." This, that, and the third, and I always tell her all the time, I need time to process. It's probably not even because I'm still angry. I just need time to process whatever it is that the situation is. Okay. Um, Another tip I can give you guys: how should women deal with men who think differently? Uh, don't assume that the men's silence and say you sound frustrated. Don't assume that a man's silence is about you. If it's quiet, it doesn't always have to mean something is wrong. Remember earlier, I said that we have all these different boxes, all these different compart. The way our mind is wired, we have compartments. A man might just be in their nothing box, and they're just really not even thinking about anything bad. They're just maybe it's football, a weird fact that we heard, thinking about what would I do if a bear came try to attack me. So it could be a many reasons as to why a man might be in there that might be quiet, and the silence have nothing to do with you. So be ready to extend some grace. Another thing that every man wish that the women knew. Another thing I could tell you guys: pick your battles. Pick your battles. Some differences aren't worth fighting. They're worth understanding, but not worth fighting. Okay, so it's very important that ask your question, ask yourself the question: does this really matter right now? Does the fact that he's tend to be quiet in his own mind, is that something I need him to change? We need it. It's part of how we are wired. Okay, um, so our minds work differently. So it's very important that as you are building a strong relationship, uh, somebody bring Ronaldo to this chat. That's my sister-in-law, and she's talking about my brother-in-law. Um, give him the playback, Camille. So the fact that we know that our minds work differently in order to build a strong relationship, it is very important that we learn how the other person communicate. How does your partner communicate? How does the man in this relationship communicate? Keep in mind we are more internal and not as external as you guys might be, right? So if you like to talk through things as a woman, and if that's fellas, if our ladies like to talk through things, it's very important that we listen and try to engage. Again, that trajectory. We can't just be like, okay, I'm internal, this, that, and the third, and leave it there. But it's very important that you are meeting them halfway. If he needs time to process things, ladies, don't push for an instant answer. Give them that space to process. All right, reciprocity. Okay, I think continuing to date each other and asking pertinent questions will help build a relationship. Absolutely, absolutely not. That's a really great point. Um, and Ann says, and when you learn how they communicate, use what you learn to do better. Absolutely. Thank you guys for those comments. Again, we're just setting a stage for a deeper conversation next week. Meet halfway. Meet halfway. And this is part of what Ann and Natalie was talking about. Where Ann is talking about learn to do better, learn how they communicate. And Natalie was mentioning it's very important that we are asking pertinent questions to help build certain things. And part of the question can be, how do you communicate? How do you process things? Right. So these are some of the ways that we could find common ground. Um, Also, it might be a good thing to not take ourselves so seriously. Maybe it might be important to appreciate and even laugh about our differences as couples, right? So instead of getting frustrated that he forgot the name of a coworker's cat, just accept that his brain doesn't store that information the way yours does. Instead of rolling your eyes when she brings up something from months ago, realize that is because she connects things deeply, and that's part of what makes her care so much about you. So we have to learn how the genders process things. Okay. So like I said, tonight I wasn't gonna be very long. It's not I wanted to be a deep dive, but N got sick. So it's more like dipping our toes in the water. And we're gonna be back next week with some more in-depth conversation exchange about this. So I want you to make sure that you guys tune in next week, Tuesday at the same time, where we dive even more. Because again, men and women, we think differently. It's not a bad thing. So it's just a matter of making sure that we understand and work out these differences, that we are ready to laugh, adapt, appreciate how the other person's mind work, but also get on trajectory to be on the same page, which is also very, very important. Okay. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. We will be back next week with my baby next to me, and we'll have our dialogue as usual because it's weird to do love talk without my talking partner. All right. So, that being said, I will catch you guys on the next one. Good night. Peace out.